All right, for more on the Apple Watch and Apple's earnings, we're joined by Eric Bleeker. He's a senior technology analyst with the Motley Fool. Eric, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Eric, another blockbuster quarter from Apple. Revenue was up 27% year over year. This quarter was Apple's second largest earnings of all time. What one thing impressed you the most?
I think you have to look at the China numbers, up 71% year over year. And that's really a function of market share gains. When we look at urban Chinese market share figures in the smartphone space, last year it was 18%. This year it's saying about 28%. The iPhone is still the product that kind of butters Apple's bread, so to say, and it's really been delivering. So when you look at Apple, you have to look at gaining market share in the iPhone, and also they're selling more expensive iPhones. The average selling price this year went up quite a bit, so that all filters down to the bottom line. This last quarter, Apple made 7 times more profits than Amazon has made in its entire history. So if you let that settle and you see just how good they're doing right now.
They're doing great, Eric, except one thing that's not doing so great is the iPad. Sales were down 23%. What happened to the iPad? Why are we seeing such declines in sales? Is this due to competition from cheaper tablets, or is the iPhone 6 with a bigger screen cannibalizing the iPad?
I think it's a function of both. Because when you look at it, yes, more competition came to the iPad. It came in the about $200 category. It pressed it there. But hey, I think Apple is cannibalized in 2 areas, one of which they've made their 5.5-inch phone, which directly takes sales away from people who have bought an iPad mini or bought a tablet. That's a fine trade-off for Apple because they make much better margins on their iPhones. And on the other side, if you've seen the new MacBook, it's pretty incredible. It weighs only about 2 pounds. It's a great product. And you have basically, in a perverse thing many of us wouldn't have expected a few years ago, PCs have gone so good, they've taken away some of the reason to buy tablets. So at the end of the day, yes, the iPad is struggling, but hey, you can see in Apple's results, it's not really hurting the bottom line.
It's certainly not hurting the bottom line. Eric, you mentioned margins, and here's something that really warmed the heart of every investor. Gross margins up 40.8%, beating the estimate range of 38.5 to 39.5. How is it that Apple is getting its manufacturing costs lower and lower? What's in play here?
I think they've always been very good at lowering manufacturing costs, but something else that's in play here, I mentioned that average selling price for iPhones. Not only can they sell the larger iPhone, the 5.5-inch Plus, at a higher price point, but a lot of people opted for the higher amount of memory. When you look at 16 gigabytes versus 64 gigabytes, we're talking a matter of dollars, but it increases that selling price often $100. So when you look at that kind of trade-off, Apple's really been able to drive kind of margins within its iPhone business. And with iPhones being 66% of sales, hey, again, for better or worse, it is Apple right now.
Well, and it's very much loved in China. As you mentioned earlier, Eric, Greater China revenue up over 70%. It's now the second biggest market for Apple. Is it safe to say that Apple still has a strong and expanding foothold in China, despite growing competition from the likes of Xiaomi and cheaper smartphone manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, again, 18% to 28% market share. They are gaining market share right now. Yes, the Chinese market has been growing, but I think more than anything, this is a function of Apple actually doing better than competitors. And when you look at its footprint and expansion that they have, you see retail expansion accelerating to its greatest pace across this year. And you also see products like the Apple Watch being able to ship to 319 different Chinese cities within 2 business days. So I think that's going to be able to drive a little bit more even expansion in a new product category across this year.
Well, you mentioned the Apple Watch there, Eric, and that launch really wasn't so smooth. During the earnings call, CEO Tim Cook actually said that there were some issues with delivery this weekend, and that they will make up for it, that there was more, that demand exceeded supply. It was a pretty unorthodox launch by Apple standards. What did you make of that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, if you need to bring customers in, be able to fit every customer for their watch, it just would not have worked very well. And it's a product that had to be sold differently. At the end of the day, when we look at estimates, I've seen estimates for America at 1.7 million units pre-ordered, Globally, more than 3 million units pre-ordered. Even their Gold Watch, which costs up to $17,000, over $40,000. To put that in comparison, Tesla sold 33,000 cars last year. So this is a great launch, and being a little behind on demand, I would gladly swap out for not being able to sell enough, because again, 3 million watches pre-ordered by some estimates. Android sold 700,000 smartwatches. So Apple's so big and needs to create new categories. By all indications, they are doing that right now. So, hey, I'll take a little bit not being up to demand, having to catch up in lieu of having a product known once.
In terms of creating new categories, we saw that services are now a $5 billion business. Is this where we're seeing growth as well with things like Apple Pay?
Yeah, I mean, with services, I don't think Apple Pay itself is going to be a driver. That one goes back to being able to kind of drive the iPhone business. But in terms of actual sales through the App Store, you know, Apple is very meticulous in what they say in their earnings call, and they made special note of them moving ahead of Android. They made special note of services moving with great velocity in China. So I think those are all very exciting avenues to look at. And Apple Pay, go ahead.
All right, we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, though. Eric Bleeker, Senior Tech Analyst with the Motley Fool. We're out of time.